Here's an easy one for you. Will Palestine ever be free?
Yes, and sooner than we think. The situation is so intolerable, so outrageous. The Israeli position is so extreme that I actually believe we will have a breakthrough, not because of Israel changing its attitudes, but because of the world forcing a solution, and that will come sooner than we think.
And do you think that world forcing a solution will come because of violence against Israel?
Well, the violence against Israel is rising and obvious, and is a major threat to Israel, a threat that Israel has fully provoked on its part. So Israel has done extraordinary damage to itself, of course, diplomatically and militarily, and in basic security terms. It has isolated Israel entirely in the world community, but for one country that continues, at least to this moment, to back it, and that is the United States. Of course, it's done horrendous harm to the Palestinians, so I don't want to be misunderstood, but it has made so much self-harm, it's astounding.
What do you see happening that would result in Palestinian freedom, and can it possibly happen with the current Israeli government under Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, the U.S. position has been that any solution to the Israel-Palestine crisis must be through a negotiated agreement. But this is a phony idea. It has just meant that Israel has a veto over Palestinian rights. And indeed, the United States has backed up that veto, no matter how outrageous, how murderous, how criminal, and now how genocidal Israel's actions have been. So the U.S. position has, on the surface, had a ring of plausibility that the two sides should negotiate and that the U.S. supports a two-state solution. But Israel manifestly opposes a two-state solution. Even the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, voted formally recently to reject a state of Palestine. So the U.S. position has been to give a veto to Israeli extremism. This is completely intolerable. It has passed the charade of American politics. It, as I said, seems to have a glimmer of plausibility to it. So all of this is to say that a solution needs to be imposed by the United Nations. That means by the UN Security Council, which has the power to impose the two-state solution and to put in peacekeepers, even to put in military enforcement to back the UN Security Council. That's all within the power of the UN Charter. The UN General Assembly can back the call of the 15 members of the UN Security Council by a demonstration of the overwhelming support for the solution by the world community. We're actually not far from that because we are just one veto away. Again, the United States stands as the last sole protector of Israel's genocidal behavior. The U.S. is complicit in a genocide right now. This is understood by young people in the United States. It may increasingly be understood. Whenever I say this, by the way, I get mail from older people who take great exception that I said that. I'm speaking statistically, that on average, the younger people tend to understand this at a higher proportion than older people. But there are many older people, including myself, who see this for what it is. I believe that American politics will not endlessly sustain this horrendous situation, partly because Israeli extremism has become so vulgar, so blatant, so clearly in violation of every standard of decency, every norm, and every piece of international law that, as I say, more and more Americans get this, even in our pretty dim-witted Washington political class. And the international community gets it. And Israel is increasingly vulnerable, strictly on military terms. The U.S. cannot save Israel the way that Israel is going, because Iran is more and more powerful. Hezbollah is powerful. The shocking behavior by Israel is uniting more and more of the Arab world. So Israel has put itself in dire threat.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that the idea of the United Nations organizing, orchestrating, creating, sustaining, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Palestinian freedom is one veto away. Do you really mean one presidential election away? Do you think we would have a different